Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another Sunday night edition of The Ride Sunday Recap with your man, Wild Wayne Cartwright. And you know, as we get ready to get rolling, you hit that like button, you subscribe, you do all of that great stuff. And you know what time it is. It is time to fire it up into the montage for week number 8. Let's go. We start off down there at homecoming down there in Nashville. It was the Tennessee State Tigers behind a dominant defensive effort from Greg Williams' group. They shut down the Howard Bison 24-7, and they get back in the win column, snapping a 4-game losing streak. Byron McNair, 18 of 22, 174 yards and 3 touchdowns in the air. They outgained the Bison 262-183 in a game that was a little bit tighter than what the score says. Tariq Starks once again had his issues in the air, throwing 2 interceptions. Anthony Reagan Jr. was part of that running game that just couldn't get going this time. Howard, 3 losses in a row as they head into MEAC play as they get home in Green Stadium for the first time next week to take on Morgan State for homecoming. Tennessee State, they stay at home there in Nashville to take on Western Illinois. It was a tough day up there in the Philadelphia area for the Hampton Pirates in CAA play. Yeah, Adam Spencer, this is a little tough for you guys, man. Villanova Wildcats improved to 5-2 on the year and 4-1 in CAA play. Pat McQuaid, 5 touchdowns in the air. This thing was over quickly, man. 49-0 at halftime on the way to a 56-14 win. Brendan Davis, he's the starter now for Hampton, but he's going to have to improve as they go forward. Hampton's 2-6 on the year, 0-4 in the CAA. Next week, it doesn't get easier because they get nationally ranked Monmouth coming to the house. Homecoming down there in Houston as Texas Southern gets a huge win over Virginia Lynchburg. 61-10 in this one. This one was no sweat. Easy peasy. Over early. KJ Cooper just had to throw it 12 times. 2 touchdowns in the air. Both of them to Kerry and Charlo. 4 receptions, 102 yards. Virginia Lynchburg, thank goodness this year we don't have to call their name again. Texas Southern, they get a bye week, and they need one. At their 4-3 record, they will take on Alcorn on November the 1st. It was homecoming down there in Itapena, where Valley gets on the board. Welcome to the winner's circle for the first time this year, Delta Devils. Norm Taylor, 7 rushes, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. But really what was significant about this game, Nina Schicks, the first woman to play football at Mississippi Valley State. She was 4 for 4 on extra points. 49-0 Delta Devils. Next week, they go down to play Alcorn State in the Magnolia Bowl. And Lincoln, yeah, we gotta hear from them next week because they're going to be at Prairie View's homecoming. This one took a while down there in UAPB. It had a weather delay that lasted a few hours. Grambling outlast the UAPB Golden Lions 20-16 to improve to 4-3 on the year and get their first SWAC win. ZT said he started and played the entire game. 18 for 29, 148 in the air, 2 touchdowns. But this was about Trey Bradford. 25 rushes, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Christian Peters struggled again in this one. 12 out of 30 passing, 3 interceptions. Oh, Grambling, next week, Sin City, HBCU Classic out there in Vegas. UAPB, they'll try to get back in the winner's column against a well-rested Bethune-Cookman. Oh, this was a tough one. We'll talk about this one a little bit later. Prairie View remains perfect in SWAC play, improving to 4-0 out there. Cam Peters, 19-31, 224 yards and a touchdown. Lamaje McDowell returned back to the lineup, 16 rushes, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns, forcing 3 Southern Jaguar turnovers who struggled again on offense as they fall to 1-6 and 0-3 in SWAC play, 24-3 this one. Prairie View, homecoming next week against Lincoln. Southern, oh, they try to snap a 5-game winning streak against FAMU next week at home. And lastly on the montage tonight, the Florida A&M Rattlers get in the win column in the SWAC for the first time this year, outlasting Alcorn State in homecoming there at Tallahassee, 33-28. RJ Johnson, 26-38, 323 in the air, a touchdown in the air, a touchdown on the ground. Thad Franklin, 19 rushes, 67 yards was game. Jalen Tolbert, he did all he could, but in the end, really, they couldn't run the ball. 33-28 FAMU. Next week, they hit Southern down there on the bluff. Alcorn, they try to get back in the winner's column against Mississippi Valley State. And yes, that was our brief montage tonight. We only had 7 games on the docket, but, you know, we had a lot of stuff going on. Nevertheless, it was so interesting. So tonight, make sure you hit the like button for me, everybody. So tonight, I'll give you a little bit of a teaser. So I'm going to talk about a few of the games that were played yesterday, as I always do. I'm going to summarize them. But I'm also going to talk about the state of the MEAC as they get ready to kick off their conference play starting next week. And then also, I'm going to give you my very first edition of SWAC scenarios. It's a little, I thought it would be a little bit early, but you know, a few people are talking and wondering how is it working and how is it looking right now. So I just figured, I said, hey, let's go ahead and let's talk about it tonight. Let's show you a few slides. So first and foremost, I just want to start with, let's go down here to UAPB. In this game at UAPB, this one, you know, it had weather issues, and you know they were off the field for a while, and it stopped in the 4th quarter when it was 14-7 Grambling. Okay, so that's where I'll pick up the conversation here when it was 14-7 Grambling, and UAPB, they had the ball in the red zone. Okay, they were driving. UAPB. And first off, for apologies to all Grambling fans, apologies to UAPB fans, and some of you probably will agree with me when I say this. This game was really hard to watch. William Graves, this game was a hard one to watch, brother. Because neither team really wanted to, never really took the bull by the horns. Everybody kept trying to do their best to get this one away. This one really was about who could give it away, who could get a ball away less. Okay. So we start 14-7 red zone after the break, and UAPB comes out extremely conservative. Now, probably this has a lot to do with the fact, as you look at what Christian Peters, he had a lot of struggles. I mean, 12 out of 30 in this game. I mean, it was really bad. Now, some of this, too, was because Bryce Cage and Isaiah Washington basically lived in that backfield. They were chasing them around the entire game. But they came out very conservative, UAPB did, ran the ball even on 3rd and long, and then they ended up kicking one of Trey Glimp's 3 field goals. Okay, 14-10. Then, on the ensuing kickoff, Grambling gets the ball. Trey Bradford fumbles. All right. UAPB gets the ball back again in the red zone. They go 3 plays, running it very conservatively. Trey Glimpf kicks his second field goal, 14-13. You go again, Grambling, and turn the ball over. And UAPB then again gets the ball inside of the red zone. They run it again conservatively. Trey Glimpf kicks his third field goal. Now it's 16-14 in a blink off of 3 conservative possessions and fumbles and missed opportunities. But then Grambling finds the way to get itself together. Zay T-Set leads them down the field on a drive, and they end up scoring a touchdown to win this game 20-16. Now, in the case of UAPB, this is just something that, they're going to take away, and they're going to be kicking themselves because this is one that they should have won. But we look at the SWAC West, y'all, and those that know this the way it is. The SWAC West is really about who can give it away last or who can give it away less. Because, this game just did not have the juice. It just did not have the flow. But for Grambling, this is what they needed to do. They needed to get a win by any means necessary after those first 2 SWAC games, and they got one. And so next week, they're going to take their talents out to the desert and play Jackson State. Oh, by the way, Jackson State had a bye week. Good luck to you, Grambling State Tigers. Okay, now, I would talk about this game next, but I'm going to switch over and I'm going to talk to this one first, and then I'll go back. All right. FAMU. Now, you talk about a game that had a lot of ebbs and flows to it, right? Alcorn, they return a punt. Jacoby Matthews returns a punt 79 yards for a touchdown, right? They led this game at one point. It was 14-6. In the beginnings, Florida A&M was moving the ball up and down the field and couldn't punch it in the end zone. They were kicking field goals. And so Alcorn had its opportunities. Jalen Tolbert, if you didn't see this game, he had a 33-yard touchdown run that was awesome. That was his best play of the season. It was a broken play. He ran down the field. He broke a couple tackles, made a really, really good play. All right. Jalen Tolbert, he had to do a lot in this game because Alcorn could not run the ball. And this is something that has been it's been a head scratcher if you're an Alcorn fan. Jacorian Sewell had 13 carries for 17 yards in this game. And just about all of Jacorian Sewell's carries in this game was about of the same variety. Handoff up the middle, stopped. Handoff up the middle, stopped. Up the middle, stopped. Right? There was so many questions that you had in this game about both teams in terms of what direction they were going. Florida A&M, to their credit, I know everybody likes to ride James Colsey and say a lot. Listen, James Colsey's back was probably more against the wall in this game than Cedric Thomas was. Okay? This game, for all intents and purposes, if Florida A&M does not win this game at home on homecoming and lose 3 straight at home there in Bragg Stadium, hey, look, a lot of people would be talking about Colsey getting a pink slip today or tomorrow, right? But they knuckled down. RJ Johnson, this was probably the best game he had as a Rattler. 323 in the air. He threw for a touchdown. He ran for another touchdown. This game went back and forth, and as some people like to say, it was the battle of the bottom. I'm not going to really say it was the battle of the bottom. I actually say this was probably the most entertaining game that we had yesterday. Now, that says a lot about the slate we had, but listen, nevertheless, this was a game that was really entertaining and went back and forth. Alcorn, they took it all the way down as far as they could. But again, this is where Alcorn has been this year. They've lived with turning the ball over, and they've lived with making mistakes in situational areas that they failed to execute. Florida A&M, for one Saturday, they found a way to make a few more plays than their opponents, and they took advantage of opportunistic movement on the defense of Alcorn State, and they got a win, and they got in the winner's circle in the SWAC. Now, for FAMU, what this does, this keeps them alive just for another week. Okay. They still, believe it or not, control their own destiny in the SWAC. I know how they're playing. They're not playing any way that looks like they could potentially even contend. But for 1 week, they stay alive. They keep everything good in terms of cozy. You got to win. But what you got to do moving forward, you got to find a way to go on that road, FAMU, next week. And you got to go head on and play a team in Southern, who I'm getting ready to talk about, that's struggling. And if you're Alcorn, the woes just continue. And now for this one. This game right here. Boy. This was Southern's last stand right here. Southern really needed this game badly for many reasons. Obviously, because it would have stayed afloat in the SWAC West. But also, this would have been good for their program psychologically. But instead, what you got really bad offense. Really, really, really bad offense. Ashton Strother played the whole game, couldn't get anything going. The play calling, very questionable. Trey Holly, he got 21 carries. But you know what? This 21 carries, you needed to give Trey Holly the ball this much a few weeks ago. And really, the 21 carries for 99 yards was very ineffective, really, when it comes to the grand scheme of things. These guys, too many 3-and-outs, too many punts, and they also turned the ball over 3 times. And you credit that to Prairie View, because Prairie View, they came with a focus. Now, for everything that people will say about Prairie View, okay, now I'm here to say that, I'm a huge fan of Tremaine Jackson. Have been a huge fan of him from the very beginning. And yeah, he said a whole lot of things in the preseason, that was notable and things like that. But one thing that I got to give credit where credit is due, these dudes have backed it up. I don't care what you want to say about, look at who they beaten. Who cares? It doesn't matter right now. What matters for them is they're 4-0 in the SWAC. And they have a really good chance. They took a big step in this game to get to the SWAC championship game by winning this game yesterday. Their defense, it moved around. It did some things. They got in the backfield. They forced Strother to be uncomfortable the entire game. Offensively, a lot gets said about their passing game. Now, listen, their passing game wasn't necessarily grade A in this game either, but it was serviceable. It was a little bit better than what you had seen from Previe in the passing attack with the previous 3 or 4 weeks, right? They had a bye week, and you can tell they used a good chunk of that bye week to get themselves going. Lamaje McDowell had a really good game this one. I know 56 yards doesn't look a lot on the stat sheet, but those were some really, really tough yards, and he definitely really, really, really carried the freight for these guys in this game. Chase Bingham, he was in there too doing this thing. They flew around and they made a statement that said, listen, this is our division, and we're going to come right down here on the bluff. We're going to make a stamp, and we're going to make a statement and show you that this is our division. They wiped these boys out in every which way. It was 17-0 to start off before Southern really knew what hit them. In Prairie View, what you have to do now, as you begin to progress this train forward, you need to now find a way in 2 weeks, because you're going to get this game next week against Lincoln. But in 2 weeks, you host Alabama State on your field. Now, you want folks to start beginning to notice and people stop, hating or stop saying that, you guys aren't that good. Beat Alabama State in 2 weeks. You do that against what we all know is a quality opponent. Now you got something. And listen, there's people down there in Jackson, Mississippi that will never really think you are going to pinch them. And that's okay, because you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that today. What you need to worry about is this next path forward to move on and get the games and win the SWAC West. I saw some posts yesterday. People said, it's technically finished. Listen, this is football in 2025, man. Ain't nothing guaranteed. You still got to go out there on the field and you got to win the games. Driver's seat, yes. Big time statement last night. Now, let's turn it over to the other side and let's talk about Southern. Now, I said moving into this, how Southern really, really needed this game. Okay? They needed this game for many reasons. And they looked just like they did in the previous weeks. Lost on offense, wasting good defensive effort, and head-scratching moments. I really didn't know exactly what they were trying to do on offense. Passing, running, did not know what they were trying to do. It is very clear that the move that they made to have Coach McNair call the plays, it has not worked. And honestly, really, and if you're a Southern fan watching this, to me, I think that the offense looks worse than it did when you had Fredericks calling the plays. It does. To me, it looks like it's worse. But there's no movement. There's no creativity. There's no motions. There's no shifts. There's nothing imaginative. You're not giving the opposing defenses really anything, anything different. No kinds of eye candy. You're not giving them much. And so now Roman Banks comes out yesterday and says that, addresses the media and says, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it. Well, I just have to say, man, the way that business is being done down there, it's just being done in a really strange way, brother. Like, you hired Dooley, it didn't work. You fired him. You're still paying him. You owe him another payment. And now if you fire Graves without, before January 1st, you're going to owe him a whole lot more money than you will if you wait till after January. You'll owe him $75K then. I found this out last night. It's things that were shared with me. And also some of this is public knowledge anyway. People know this. But this is where I will say, and again, if you're a Southern fan, you might want to cover your ears, but maybe not. You probably know this. Sometimes you need to hit complete rock bottom. You need to hit complete rock bottom before you can have a resurgence. And listen, man, it's a lot of this mystique that's been talked about, a lot of the heritage, a lot of that stuff, all that proud heritage, it ain't saving you today. It's not doing anything for you today. All those Hall of Famers that you had, that's not saving you today. You haven't won a SWAC championship since 2013. Yeah, you've been in some SWAC championship games, but you really have not been a contender in a while. And sometimes you need moments like this where you hit rock bottom in your program to really begin to start getting to the real answers that's at hand. And honestly, and this is Wild Wayne, I'm not throwing any shade towards you guys. I'm not here to throw no shade. I'm here to keep it real. You've hit the bottom of where you can go, man. They said coming into this thing, they hadn't been 1-5 since 1971. I don't know when's the last time they were 1-6. And listen, a lot of folks, including me, never saw this happening. I thought when I did my preview show back in August, and you can go back and look at it, I said the worst case scenario would be if they struggled on offense, they could go 6-6. I said that I thought that it was potential that they could struggle on offense, but I didn't think they would struggle like this, man. This is a disaster. And right now, when you look at where they are moving forward, it's a question now. Forget about, who's going to be the next coach. Forget about who you fire. Forget about when you fire. Forget about all that stuff, man. What you guys got to do down there, you got to just have a stone cold look in the mirror and figure things out administrative-wise. This goes even further beyond the field. This is administration here. You're talking about from AD, you're talking about from president, you're talking about from cabinet, you're talking about all those folks that are involved down there. You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. Quit pointing fingers. Quit saying this is this and this is that. Get down, get in the room. You got some smart folks down there. Get in the room and get it figured out. This season right here, this is over. You can just charge it to the game. You can figure out whatever you want to do moving ahead. But this right here, this was a dismal performance when you really, really needed it. Shout out to Prairie View because y'all got one done, and I'll talk a little bit more about y'all later when I get to the scenarios, all right? Now, what I want to do is, and make sure everybody that's watching, make sure you hit the like button, all right? Now, I want to transfer over, and I want to talk about the MEAC here really quickly here over the next couple minutes here. Because the MEAC, they're getting ready to get themselves started in their conference play starting this Saturday. We've been waiting a while, and now we finally have it, all right? And this is a 5-game sprint to the finish, all right? So what I'm going to do, just like I did on Wednesday night, if you join me, I did the state of the SWAC. This is the state of the MEAC. Now, this will be a little bit shorter because they only got 6 teams, all right? So I'll start with Norfolk State here, all right? 1-6 overall, negative point differential, okay? They're averaging 20 points per game. They're allowing 34. 143 on the ground rushing, which is a surprise for them because when coming in, you thought Kevon King was going to be the bell cow. He's going to lead those guys to higher heights in the running game. Hasn't happened thus far. It's been a little bit hit and miss. Passing has been a little bit better than this. 211 yards average. They went with Otto Coons exclusively, and he's been the better quarterback, but it hasn't necessarily equated to wins, which you'll see as I get through here. Best offensive output, 34 points when they played at Hampton, which was a loss. Negative turnover differential. This is what has killed this team. These next 2 things are what has killed Norfolk State. They have a negative turnover differential that is just so lopsided. It's 13 that they've turned the ball over 13 times, and they've only taken it away versus 7 times. So they have a -6 in the turnover area. And then also they're averaging 10 penalties per game. This is what equates to them being 1-6 because they have talent, and Michael Vick is starting to figure it out, man. But what Michael Vick can't do, he can't cause these guys to hold on to the ball. He can't cause these guys to stop committing these foolish penalties. All right. Now, positives, their passing offense has been better, and they've been getting some explosive plays. Negatives, like I said, the turnovers. And it ain't just the 13 that they've committed. They've turned the ball over by fumbling it 8 times, right? They've had penalties, and they failed in situational football in moments, okay? Now, Norfolk State, they've got talent. Now, what it needs to start with this Saturday, they're going to host South Carolina State for their homecoming. You know, and it's not going to be easy, but that's where they need to start from square one. Maybe perhaps after they had a bye week last week, they have a chance to say, hey, we can go back, we can wipe the slate clean, and no matter the fact that you started 1-6, you still have an opportunity to win the MEAC. All right, that's Norfolk State. Now we switch over to Morgan State. And these guys, 3-4 overall. Now, these guys, oh my goodness. It's been a struggle for these boys too. All right. Negative point differential. It's not been that much. They average 23 points per game. They allow 25. Now, the reason why this is really crazy to me that they have a negative point differential is the fact that you played Virginia Lynchburg, you played Miles College, and you also played Central State. All right. You had 3 games against vastly inferior competition, and you're still in a negative point differential. That, if you're a Morgan State Bear fan, that has to upset you. All right. 171 on the ground. That's been pretty serviceable. 159 in the air. They haven't really been there throwing the ball. Best offensive output. Again, this is something that really upsets you if you're a Bear fan. 44 points against Virginia Lynchburg. That's your best output. All right. Negative turnover differential. Just like Norfolk State. These boys have been turning the ball over too. 14 turnovers, man, that they've given it away, and they've taken it away 9 times. You can't win many games when you're a -5, and they're averaging 8 penalties per game. Now, their positives, their rush defense has been pretty good, giving up just 116 yards per game. But the negatives vastly outweigh the positive. They've turned the ball over. They fumbled it 9 times, right? And then they've had their performance against inferior competition. They have not beaten anybody that really you can say that is a real, like, hey, that's a great victory. Their 3 wins: Central State, Miles, and Virginia Lynchburg. And they lost on a Hail Mary against Georgetown, who does not have athletic scholarships. Hello. All right. But again, like Norfolk State, they have a chance with new life starting Saturday in Green Stadium when they go play Howard. Speaking of Howard, these boys have lost 3 games in a row, including yesterday. They have a negative point differential. As you can see, they're in a lot of close games that are low scoring. Okay. That says and shows you these guys, they play really good defense. The problem is they can't really get anything going offensively. Outside of when they win, they run the ball well. When they lose, and also really, for the most part, they're not really a passing team. 133 yards per game passing on average. Their best offensive output, 38 points when they played Morehouse there in New York City. They also have a negative turnover differential, and that's hurt them a little bit in some of the games that they've lost. They've committed 7 turnovers, which isn't bad, but you've only taken it away 5 times in 7 games, okay? They're averaging 5 penalties a game. That's not really going to hurt anybody when you average only 5 penalties a game. That's really good. Positives: they run the ball pretty good, and they play really, really good defense, especially against the run. But the negatives: can't seem to throw it, man, and they stall out a lot on drives. Howard, during these last 3 games that they've lost, they've had really good starts, and they've just had bad second halves. And Coach Scott, he does a really, really good job in trying to motivate these boys. And, he's going to really, really get into these guys, and he's going to let them know, like, hey, Saturday we have an opportunity at home to get started again. And boy, do they need to get started. All right, that's Howard. Now we go to South Carolina State, the defending champions. They have a negative point differential as well, but a lot of this was buoyed by the fact that they played South Carolina, and they also played South Florida, where they gave up 63 points. All right, 27 points allowed, 27 points scored, 30 points allowed. Okay, they score a lot. They don't run the ball very well. That's been a problem for South Carolina State. They throw it, though. They'll throw it all over the yard, whether it's Stubblefield or Billy Atkins. Best offensive output, they put up 55 points against Bethune-Cookman. They're positive in the turnover differential. They've only turned it over 8 times compared to 10. But the problem, though, is when they had those 8 turnovers, those turnovers came in a bad loss against Charleston Southern. Okay, so that's something. They average 8 penalties per game. That's a little bit high. Positives: passing offense, these boys throw it all over the lot. It's a little bit like it was last year. And their secondary play's been good too. 6 interceptions. Negatives: these boys just can't run the ball, man. And when you get into these MEAC games against some of these better defenses and some of these better secondaries, especially like North Carolina Central, who has a pretty good secondary, you're going to need to run the ball. And also situational football, being able to handle things when you get in certain situations, not melting down, and also stop stalling drives if you're South Carolina State. These guys be able to move the ball, and sometimes they stall and have to settle for field goals. Okay, this is a really, really interesting team because they got off to a hot start and they've kind of cooled off a little bit. But their last game before the bye week, they won a tough game on the road there at North Carolina A&T. So, for South Carolina State, this is a team that you keep your eye on as a potential contender there in the MEAC because of the way they play offense. And they do have a few guys that can play good on defense. And Chennis Berry, just a nice, tough dude, man. He just knows how to motivate. All right. Now we go to the surprise team of the conference, Delaware State, man. 4-0 overall. Deshaun Jackson has these boys believing. They have a positive point differential. These boys are an offensive machine. They run the points up on that scoreboard. 38 points per game scoring. Now, defensively, they give up some too. 28 points per game on average. this is something that will win you a lot of games. They're first in the FCS with 325 yards per game rushing. And these guys, it doesn't matter what it is. You know they're going to run the ball. You can put your defense up against them to run the ball. They know that they want to run the ball. And they said, here it is, stop us. It doesn't matter if it's Marquise Gillis. It don't matter if it's Caden Bennett. It don't matter if it's James Jones. These boys will line up and they will go and go and go on that ground. Now, passing has been a little bit more to desire, but it can be there. Their best offensive output came in their last game against Southern Connecticut State. They scored 73. They ran for 607 yards that day. They have a positive turnover differential. That's good for them. 6 turnovers committed versus 9 takeaways. This is the problem, though. They average 10 penalties per game, and that's something that Deshaun Jackson always talks about, right? Every Monday, he talks about discipline, stop shooting ourselves in the foot, stop committing these penalties. Positives, like I said, running game, man, they can ride this thing. If you're not going to be able to stop their running game, man, it's going to be hard to stop these boys completely, right? Unless you're just going to have to outscore them, right? They force turnovers, and they're tough. Their problems, though, what might get them is the fact that they're not the greatest on defense, okay? And the penalties and the discipline. But, man, I like this. No, I don't like this team. I love this team. I love the makeup of this team. Shout out to Clinton Portis, too. He's their running backs coach. These guys are getting it done, man. They got a really good rotation, and that group of guys, man, they don't care. They don't care who gets the credit. This is a team. They're cohesive, and they're going to have something to say, especially on this first game on Saturday at North Carolina Central, where I end this right with them. North Carolina Central, right there, the favorites, 5-2 overall. They have a positive point differential, just like Delaware State. They average 36 a game. They're allowing 26. They run the ball pretty good themselves, 181, and they also air it out too. Walker Harris has been throwing that ball all around, man. His last 4 games, he's been solid throwing that football, and he's been efficient. He had last game against FAMU, he was 21 out of 27. Okay, Chris Mosley, star back, man. Dude can get it done back there. Their offense, they got weapons, okay? And their offensive line can move people, right? Best offensive output, 62 when they put up those 700-plus yards of offense against North Carolina A&T. They have an even turnover differential. 11 turnovers is a lot. 11 takeaways is equally a lot of takeaways, though. And they have 7 interceptions from their secondary. They're averaging 6 penalties per game. Not bad. Positives, all phases of their offense. Dangerous team on their offensive side, man. And they also know how to take that football away. Negatives, they turn the ball over a little bit too much. Trey Oliver will tell you that. And also, they've been prone to give up a few explosive plays. Now, here are my views. Trey Oliver's redemption tour. This right here, Trey Oliver, and they know, North Carolina Central has been the class of this league for the last 4 seasons, right? Each of the last 2 years, they lost 1 game that kept them out of the Celebration Bowl. 2 years ago, they lost to Howard. Last year, it was the loss on Halloween night down there in Orangeburg against South Carolina State. In the MEAC, you have very little to no margin for error. With only 5 conference games, if you lose 1, you're in deep trouble, okay? So this is Trey Oliver. You're the favorite. I picked you preseason. I'm sticking with you. But you got to now turn that over now, and you got to start this up Saturday against Delaware State, because that's a huge game. Chennis Berry's encore down there in South Carolina State. Yeah, last year they won the league, had a really, really good team. And he's got an interesting team this year. I just told you about how they are on offense, and they're opportunistic on defense. Big thing for them is don't get yourself tripped up when you go down there to Norfolk on Saturday, right? Because what you got to do now, you got to remember now for them, they had North Carolina Central in their house last year. But now they got to go to Durham this time. So now what Chinnisberry you need to do, you need to just continue to just keep building that squad in your image and likeness and keep your toughness. And we'll see where it goes. Deshaun Jackson's success, it's been big. It's been well talked about. Now we're in the MEAC play, Deshaun Jackson. What can you do to get this thing started? Because you got a huge opportunity before you on Saturday. You get this win on Saturday there, oh boy, people really will start believing that you could potentially win the MEAC, man. That's where it is. Michael Vick struggles. Yeah, they're 1-6. And yeah, a lot of expectations were heaped upon these guys at the beginning of the season. Maybe it was fair, maybe it wasn't fair. But what matters is these guys have not gotten out of their own way with turnovers and penalties. He's figured it out in terms of like the rotation with his staff, in terms of, playing Otto Coons at quarterback, right? What they got to do, they got to play better defense, and they just need to get out of their own way. And it starts Saturday with potentially trying to get a win on homecoming at home against a tough opponent in South Carolina State. Larry Scott's Bison. Yeah, they're searching for offense there in Howard, man. It's tough. They can't throw the ball, haven't done it really all year. When they've won, they've run it. Their defense is good, man. They got to be able to get some offense to go with it. If they can start scoring some points and sustaining some drives with the way they play defense, they got a chance, man. They got a chance because they can defend. All right. And then Damon Wilson. A lot of pressure on you, big dog, to try to win. A lot of pressure on you, man. It's been unsuccessful this year in games, man, where you guys have given some things away. But now you got new life. What you gonna do with it? Now, here's the projections as I reset it. The favorite to me is still North Carolina Central. But closely next in line, you got Delaware State, and I even put South Carolina State right there. I think that those are really the three teams right there I think will produce your champ. But really give me North Carolina Central. If they take care of what's in front of them and they play up to their potential the way that they're capable of, I think they'll win it. All right? The Chasers, Howard, like I said, if they can play some better defense, we'll see. Morgan State, man, can they get some things going on offense and can they get out of their own way? Norfolk State, same way. This is going to be a nice little sprint, man. 5 weeks there in the MEAC, man. It's going to be pretty dope. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. So now that I've done that, I will now tell you all, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe as I switch on over now to the SWAC. And here are the current. Now I open now. Let me introduce this. This is my very first Wild Wayne current scenario in the SWAC. Okay. You're going to see this progress as weeks forward. All right. So I'll start with this. Title game, if the season ended today, obviously, it would be Prairie View at Jackson State. Jackson State would be the host team because they are ranked in the FCS poll. That is clause number 4 on the home tiebreaker scenario for those that follow it like I do on the SWAC website, okay? So because Jackson State is nationally ranked in the FCS poll, they would be the home team, all right? The easiest way that JSU would host if they won the East, just finish unbeaten in SWAC play, right? PV can't overtake you no matter how you finish because if they go undefeated in SWAC play, they're going to be ranked. It's just that simple. Even if Prairie View goes undefeated in SWAC play and you do too, Jackson State, you'll still be the host because if you go undefeated, you'll be ranked and you'll win that tiebreaker, right? All right, now the easiest way that PV would host if they won the West, obviously if they finish unbeaten in SWAC play and JSU loses a conference game. Now, obviously, there's a whole lot more to this as we go because we still got a long way to go in the season, right? But this is just putting it in the most simplistic of terms right now for your SWAC title game if the season ended today. So that's what it would be, and that's who would host and why they would host, and this is what PV would need to do if they wanted to host, okay? That's the easiest part of this. This ain't about, well, that ain't going to happen. This ain't going to happen. This is just explanation points at this point, okay? So that is your title game scenario. Now I'll switch on over here to the West, okay? And Daryl Smith, this is where this comment fits. All right. This is as of right now. PV, they're in the driver's seat sitting there with a perfect 4-0 record. If they win each of their next 3 SWAC games, and if Texas Southern continues to win, that's the first way they can win the SWAC West. Because what happens is if you win your next 3, and even if Texas Southern continues to win too, you'll be at 7 wins, and the best that Texas Southern will be able to get is 7 wins, and there you'll be guaranteed to win it by a tiebreaker with that, okay? Because you own the head-to-head. Also, if you finish 2-2 in your last 4 SWAC games, Texas Southern has to lose at least one of their final 4. If Texas Southern loses at least one of their final 4 SWAC games and you go 2-2 in your last 4, you still win by tiebreak with that head-to-head, because that would mean that both teams would be 6-2 in SWAC play, and because of that head-to-head, Prairie View would win. So in other words, Prairie View, barring a major catastrophe, they should be on their way to the SWAC championship game. But that's why they play the games, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they play the games. And I will show you Prairie View's final schedule. You know it by now. Next week, they go and they play the homecoming game. But then you see Alabama State at Alabama A&M. And then they play Pine Bluff at home. And they play Valley. If they went 2-2 in these last 4, now we look at Texas Southern. They have a bye week this week. And then they finish with 4 games. They're only playing an 11-game schedule if you're Texas Southern. Their last 4, I'm just going to simply just say it like this. They probably need to win all of these. They probably need to win all of these. That's just really what it's about. Alcorn, that's winnable. At Alabama State, that's tough, brother. But you never know. At Southern, who knows what the heck Southern's going to be by that time. And then you play Alabama A&M at the end, right? If you're Texas Southern, you're probably better served. If you want to get in, you're probably going to need to win all 4 of your games, right? Because you're going to need to finish at least 1 game ahead of PV due to that head-to-head loss. Prairie View has to lose 2 more times. 2 more times. At least. So that's just where it's at if you're in the West. Believe it or not, Pine Bluff is still in this thing too. But because they haven't played Prairie View yet, but I ain't no. Sorry. I love y'all down there in Pine Bluff, but nah, bro. I couldn't put y'all on the screen. So really, 2-horse race out there in the West. PV, it's on your racket. You know, you continue to win. Hey, you're there, right? You're almost there now, but you just need to finish the deal, right? Now we switch to the East. The West was a little bit clearer, but then this is still clear too. Here, if you're Jackson State, if you win your next 4 SWAC games, that's also assuming if Bethune-Cookman also continues to win, okay? And I'll show you the standings just here in a bit, okay? If Bethune-Cookman wins their next 3 games, and you do too, well, regardless, if Bethune-Cookman wins their next 3 games, that head-to-head matchup on November 15th in Jackson, that will be essentially for the SWAC East crown, really, for somebody, okay? But for Jackson State, your easiest way to get there, win your next 4. That is assuming if Bethune-Cookman continues to win. Now, if Bethune-Cookman drops 1 and also Alabama State drops 1 before that, that cuts your needing to win 4 down to 3. Okay. But bottom line is this, JSU, you just keep winning. That's it. You're right there. You're undefeated in SWAC play. You keep winning, you're gonna be there. And I already told you on the first slide what it takes for you to host. Okay. At the very least, just win and stay ranked. Regardless of what Prairie View does, if they won all their games, you're still gonna be the host. Okay. So that's where it is if you're Jackson State. Now for Bethune-Cookman, here's where it is. You got to win all the rest of your 5. You got to win your last 5 SWAC games, including Jackson State on the 15th of November. Plus, this will be easier too if you have Alabama State lose at least once. Now, why do I say that? Remember, Bethune-Cookman lost to Alabama State already, okay? Because here's what would happen. All right? If let's say that Jackson State continues winning, Bethune-Cookman continues winning. Let's say that you get to November the 15th, right? And Jackson State sits there at 6-0 in the league, and Bethune-Cookman will be 5-1 in the league. Okay, that's if both teams continue to keep winning. Okay, let's say Alabama State continues to keep winning too. So we get to November 15th, and you've got a 6-0 Jackson State, a 5-1 Bethune-Cookman, and a 5-1 Alabama State. Let's say Bethune-Cookman upsets Jackson State, and they force a 6-1 tie. You know, you could essentially have it to where all 3 teams could finish at 7-1 in league play. And then the tiebreaker would be, because each one of them beat each other, then you would start going to the difference of tiebreaker in points, right? Now, Alabama State, they lost by 4 to Jackson State. And Bethune-Cookman, this is what would kill Bethune-Cookman, is the fact that they lost by 17 to Alabama State. But before we get through all of that, though, let's just keep it in its very simplistic form. Bethune-Cookman, you need to win all 5 of your SWAC games. It's point blank. Okay? And then Alabama State, they're in more of a precarious situation. They need to win out, and this is the best way. This is the best way again. Best way again, I'm saying. For Alabama State to get in, really their best way, they need to win their last 5. That goes without saying. They need Jackson State to lose twice, remember, because of that head-to-head loss last week. And then if Bethune-Cookman loses 1 game also, that's the best and easiest way that Alabama State can get to the SWAC title game. If Bethune-Cookman does not lose, right, and Jackson State loses that 1 head-to-head, then, you know, Wild Wayne will be explaining a lot to y'all. All right? So that's what the SWAC looks like right now. Now I will go to the conference standings as they currently reside. Okay? You've got here in the East, Jackson State 3-0. They just had their bye week. Okay? You see that they've won 2 games against the East. They beat Alabama State. They beat Alabama A&M, and they have that 1 West victory against Southern. Okay? So they're 3-0, and they sit there at 5-1 overall. So now you see Alabama State. They're at 2-1 after that loss last week. Bethune-Cookman is 2-1. You know, they have their 1 loss where they lost to Alabama State. They beat Alabama A&M, and Bethune-Cookman also beat Southern. Okay, so Bethune-Cookman was on a bye week. Alabama A&M sitting there 1-2, and then you saw with FAMU getting on the board yesterday, they're 1-1. Now, one thing that's not pictured, again, FAMU still has a chance, which is crazy, but they do. And I didn't put them on that screen because I just wanted to make it the easiest way. Because FAMU hasn't played Jackson State yet, if they keep winning, they'll have a chance. But listen, right now, that's where FAMU is, and then Valley's looking to get on the board. That's what it looks like in the East. Then you switch over here to the West. You see Prairie View at 4-0. Which they've won all 4 of their games in the division so far. Now they still got to play 3 games against the East. They're going to play Alabama A&M, Alabama State, and then they play Valley. But right now, this is Prairie View's right here. to lose. And then you got Texas Southern right there in the mix. Okay. So that's where it is. That's where it is. That's exactly where you sit. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I move over to my ride tokens for week number 8. All right. There was a 7-game slate yesterday. So we went through it. Byron McNair from Tennessee State. Good game, young man. 18 for 22, 174 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also contributed 47 yards rushing on the ground. He gets my first ride token this week. My second ride token. I don't care about the yards. I'm just talking about the toughness and also just the situations that he did his damage. Lamaje McDowell, 16 rushes, 56 yards, but 2 crucial, important touchdowns in that 24-3 win. So Lamaje McDowell of Prairie View, you get the second ride token. My third ride token goes to Trey Bradford of Grambling. 25 rushes, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground in their 20-16 win at UAPB. Trey Bradford, you get my third ride token. And my final ride token, this is a team defensive token this week, goes to Prairie View. Their team defense, they had 4 tackles for loss, a sack, a forced fumble, an interception, and they only allowed 3 points. So these are the ride tokens for week number 8, ladies and gentlemen. Great job by all these young men. And then lastly, we'll end it here tonight. We'll go to the week 9 schedule, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone is playing next week except for Texas Southern in the SWAC. Texas Southern is on a bye week. So what we have, all right, homecoming there in Prairie View. Lincoln, for the very last time this year, we get to say Lincoln on this show. They will go and they'll visit Prairie View. That will be on SWAC TV. Then you have the renewal of the Magnolia Bowl down there on the reservation. As Valley, coming off its first win of the season yesterday, they go down there on the reservation and take on Alcorn. That'll be on SWAC TV. Homecoming there in Daytona as UAPB hits the road and they play the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. That is the very first time that UAPB is playing Bethune-Cookman in SWAC play. All right, so that will also be on SWAC TV. Then a game that looked like it was going to be phenomenal at the beginning of the season is now, boy. You tell me if you thought it was going to be 2-4 against 1-6, if that was on your bingo card. But nevertheless, you got FAMU coming off their first SWAC victory yesterday. They go down to the Bluff and they take on Southern. Southern is looking to snap a 5-game losing streak to FAMU in this series. This one will also be on SWAC TV. Shout out to my boy Mo Carter. He's calling this game. You've got the 84th renewal of the Magic City Classic, the Amazon Magic City Classic presented by Coca-Cola, where you've got Alabama A&M, my squad, taking on Alabama State. They're in Birmingham Legion Field. This will be a really, really cool one again. It always is. Lots of pageantry, lots of flair. They got that tailgate. So that annual renewal, it gets itself going again next week. Both teams came off a bye week. That game will be on ESPN Plus, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. And then last but not least, you got the HBCU Go Game of the week. You got the PNG Las Vegas HBCU Classic, where you've got Grambling taking on Jackson State, who's coming off a bye week. Grambling, boy, I'll talk about this on Wednesday, but man, Grambling, you better find something this week, because the way that was yesterday in Pine Bluff, these boys, Jackson State, coming off a bye week, getting some guys healthy. Whew, man, they could be sending some folks back on the strip or back in them casinos a little early. But nevertheless, you've got this one. I hope it's a great event out there in Vegas. Hope everybody that gets to travel out there, you have a really fabulous time. All right. So that is the SWAC schedule. And then we go right on over here to the MEAC. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the MEAC play is here. There's no more of this non-conference for the MEAC. So you got it started with homecoming there in Norfolk. You got South Carolina State going there to take on Norfolk State. That'll be on ESPN Plus. You got homecoming there in Durham. And a huge matchup that I'm looking forward to talk about for you on Wednesday night with Delaware State coming on in to take on North Carolina Central. That'll also be on ESPN Plus. Then you've got Morgan State Bears going to homecoming there on the yard there in DC. And then this is really crazy. This is the very first game this year that the Howard Bison are playing in Green Stadium. So homecoming there in DC for Morgan State against Howard. That'll be on ESPN Plus. You got Tennessee State staying at home in Big South OVC play. They look to get their first win in Big South OVC play as they take on Western Illinois, the Leathernecks. That'll be on ESPNU. Oh boy, it was tough yesterday for Hampton. Gonna be even tougher when you get the 11th ranked team in America in FCS, Monmouth, and Derek Robertson coming on in there. That'll be on Flow College Sports. And that is homecoming down there in Hampton. Ooh. Oh boy. Might be some folks going to the tailgate a little early in that one. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Good luck to you, Pirates. And then you finish the schedule tomorrow, or next week, sorry, with Campbell, Fighting Camels. They beat Hampton a couple weeks ago. They're going to go and take on North Carolina A&T, who's coming off of a bye week. That'll also be on Flow College Sports. Like Ronaldo Christmas said, everybody hit that like button. He mean like button. I got what you're saying. Like button. Okay, let's go back to the SWAC schedule. Since I got a lot of folks up here talking about this schedule here. She said Campbell will beat the black. Hashtag blacks. You know what? He said Monmouth. Here we go. Monmouth is putting BTA. Yeah, man. Yeah, that one's gonna get a little ugly. Little ugly. Yeah, man. That's gonna get a little ugly, man. But yeah, that's the MEAC. This is the SWAC this week. So yeah, this week, Wednesday, we got a big show for you this week, Wednesday. My partners from Down South Football Podcast. So Renard and Dave from Down South Football Podcast, they're going to join me on Wednesday night, and we are going to preview and pick all of these games, man. What a big week of football, week number 9. I am dubbing this week 9 the greatest week of HBCU football in 2025. It is the biggest week of HBCU football. And the reason why it's the biggest week, because you got the opener of MEAC play, obviously, with some good matchups, but then you got some classic matchups. Say what you want about what you think Grambling and Jackson State will be, but that's a classic matchup, man. It's awesome to see those two teams get on the field with a lot of history. Also, a Magic City Classic goes without saying. You got two teams with a really, really strong, history with FAMU and Southern, regardless of how they are. And you got Bethune-Cookman sitting there with a very, very good opportunity to keep it rolling with their surprising season against UAPB. And then you got that Magnolia Bowl, which might be a little sneaky there. Valley, man. Shout out to my boy Zoe. If he was watching, Zoe said that Valley could win the Magnolia Bowl this year. You know what, man? We'll see. But we got a really, 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 really good week, man, coming up ahead. Really good week coming up ahead. So, I've really enjoyed myself tonight, as I always do. But I want to finish this here tonight, and I want to say a couple things. All right? I want to talk about some teams here. Now, I want to pull up Prairie View. Okay? And it's funny what she said. It's funny. You said Prairie View is an imposter. That win-loss record is fool's gold. Thank you for bringing this up, because I'm glad you brought this up, because this is exactly where I was going about Prairie View. Okay. Let me say this. The way Prairie View is, regardless of how unimpressive, impressive, how you may want to say their schedule. She said, Prairie View is crazy. Listen, PV's defense shouldn't be overlooked. Thank you. I just have to say this about Prairie View. And I think people, listen, I think people are giving these guys a little bit harder of a time than really you should. Because really, at the end of the day, they're winning the games that are in front of them. Now, you can say what you want. Yeah, they're probably not blowing teams out. They don't look sexy in the way they play the game, whatever. They're winning these games. And for them, they believe that their team can go higher. And I think that for them to believe that they can go higher, hey, maybe they haven't played their best football yet. I'll say this. Yesterday, they took a big step in my eyes. I was looking yesterday. I said, well, shoot. I said, yeah, I know they haven't been that impressive, but man, say what you want about Southern's inabilities on offense, man. They still did nothing. And some of that still was about Prairie View playing defense. So Prairie View, they we'll see what they got. They're going to have a chance to prove themselves. They're going to have a chance to prove themselves. I said this. After the Lincoln game, the next two games right there, that is where they can prove it. If they beat Alabama State at home, that can change the perception for a lot of folks. That can change the perception for a lot of folks. Now, I know if you're a Jackson State fan, this don't mean nothing to you. And that's okay. You're within your rights. If you're a Jackson State fan, this don't mean nothing to you. But I'm just telling you. I think that Prairie View, I think that they are deserving for at least a little bit more respect by the fact that they've won the games that have been in front of them. I'll just say that. That's all. Okay. I already talked about tonight. he said, talk to me about PV when they play the Alabama schools. Whitley said, I don't see them beating either of the Alabama schools. Now, it's funny. When I said this last night, I was, it was recorded and put on SWAC Sports and Talk group saying that, like I was talking some trash because I said I didn't see them beating either Bama school. Listen, I didn't see Southern being 1-6 either. Nobody did. Did everybody see FAMU struggling like this? Did everybody see Alcorn struggling like this? Did we all see those things? We had our thoughts. Everybody talked. So I just say like this, man. They'll have a chance to prove it. Prove it. But even this, if they did beat the Bama schools, people will still find something else to say. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. So anyhow, like I said, I talked about Southern earlier. I talked about coaching firings. Those that were with me on Wednesday night, I had a chance to talk about it really candidly about what I feel about coaching. Listen, man, coaching is so hard now. It's so hard now. You look today, Billy Napier of Florida got fired. Jay Norvell, Colorado State, he got fired. Last week, James Franklin got fired. Trent Dilfer got fired. People getting fired, man, all over the place. NFL, they're firing guys too. My Browns, hey, we got to win today. Probably going to send Mike McDaniel to the unemployment line with Miami. Coaching is hard, man. Hard. Administration, can make coaching that much tougher because of their decision making. You got people in administrative positions that don't know anything about football, don't know anything about roster building, don't know anything about what it takes to deal with adversity, making decisions. That's a problem. You got boosters. Yeah, I know they donate money, but some of those boosters, they don't know anything about football either. They're not in the locker rooms like that. They don't know the personnel. They don't know all that stuff. Now, listen, you can say what you want about the way Terrence Graves has performed. You know, this year, it ain't been good. We know it ain't been good. But it's been really, really difficult, man. Thank you. Hit the like button, y'all. It's been really, really difficult. Really, 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 really difficult. And like you said, there are many terminations in coaching on various levels. So I'm just saying, man, I know everybody quickly wants to say, let's just fire this guy. If you want to fire a guy, okay, because he's not getting it done, obviously, sure. But when you fire a guy, the next question that comes along with it is who you going to hire next? And who's the best person for the situation that's at hand? Who's the best person that can manage expectations? Who's the best person that can handle a demanding fan base? Questions you got to answer. Alcorn. It's a good question. Said, who is Alcorn going to get if they fired Thomas? Who knows? Who knows? Said, how rosters turn over now, you have to have a staff with a game plan. Then a backup plan for the original game plan. Some of these coaches and ADs can't keep up. Come on, man. Say it again. Come on, man. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Got a backup plan, man. Got a backup plan. You got to figure it out. And then Miss Mac, yeah, you got to have a good AD. Shout out to Ashley Robinson. You got a really good one. No, you ain't got a good one. You got a great athletic director. Same thing with mine, Dr. Paul A. Bryant. We got some great athletic directors out there. But you got to have a good athletic director. You got to have one that has vision. You know, the Bible says when the people have no vision, where there is no vision, the people shall perish. That's the same thing with football dreams. Same thing with athletic dreams. Point blank period, man. If you got no vision, it's not going to work. People just say, well, you know what, man? We just want to win a game. We just want to win. We just want to compete for championships. Okay, but what about culture? What about fit? What about vision? That stuff happens, man. You got to have that. Say, how many coaches has Southern had in the last 5 to 7 years? Good question, man. Dawson Odoms. Then you had Dooley. Then you had Jason Rollins as an interim. You had Graves. So I count 4. 4 in the last 5 to 7 years, right? And here, MEAC Mike said, if they don't get fired, a pay cut is definitely in order. There's no way you should be talking. You should be making $300K without winning. Well, I don't know about that one there. And the reason being is that because you're still doing the job, man. You're still putting in the hours. You're still putting in the time. Okay? Just because you're not winning doesn't mean that you're not earning money. Okay? I know a lot of times we say, oh, you got to win, got to win, got to win, got to win. That's what decides it. I get it. But guys are recruiting. Guys are working. They're spending time. They're spending time away from their family. You know what I'm saying? They're putting in time. So listen, bottom line is this, man. When you don't have any vision, your dream, your vision, it's all going to perish. It's not going to work. And like I said early in the show, for those that are just joining me, I said for Southern, when they lost this game, here it is again, when they lost this game right here, sometimes if you're Southern or anybody else, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before you can really, really go and move on up. And what Southern is, you got to rebuild that thing. You got to rebuild it. You got to start it over. You need a refresh. And the refresh, it ain't going to come in this year, like per se. You can make some steps towards it now because you know you're in the middle of a lost season. So you can start making some moves. But what needs to happen, man, they got to have a refresh. Point blank, period. You can say that all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see tomorrow. I know Roman Banks said that they're going to sit down, they're going to talk, whatever that means. I'm almost for certain that when I'll be sure. We'll see when I get on the call, the SWAC coaches call tomorrow. I'll see if I'm even interviewing or even asking the question to Coach Graves. But if I do, I'm going to ask him questions about FAMU because it ain't no sense in asking him about none of that other speculative stuff. Because really, as a head coach, his focus ain't about nothing but the next game, really, at this point. So that's where it is, everybody. So, like I said, great show tonight. I enjoy everybody that's watching. As always, make sure you hit the like button before you leave. Make sure you subscribe before you leave. Make sure you share this show also before you leave. All right. Yeah, like you said, like the stream, peeps. Like the stream. Like the stream. Thank you, Mr. Is. Appreciate you. Miss Roar Tiger said maybe they'll make McNair the interim. I don't know. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you share the show. And make sure you come on back here on Wednesday night when with my guys from Down South Football Podcast when we do picks and previews of an outstanding week number 9. Thank you once again. I love everybody. And remember, I'm a fan of every HBCU team, except for when you're playing Alabama A&M. God bless you. Good night.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.